Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from group 5. I want to present our discussion is talking about language and the brain and first language acquisitions. But before that, I want to introduce myself and also my friend team. My name is Nabila Vini Lamanda with student number A1B2 19033 and Irzal Ariansyah with student number A1B2 19046. So, first of all, we want to explain about language and the brain. So, the brain is one of the important organs that located in humans' head that composite of neurons, nerve cells that are the basic information processing units of the nervous system. So the language is the human ability to acquire and use complex system of communication. The scientists study of language called linguistic. Next slide is neurolinguistic. So neurolinguistic is the study of the relationship between language and the brain. It tries to explore how the brain understands and produces language and communication. This involves attempting to combine theory from neurology or neurophysiology of how the brain is structured and how it functions with linguistic theory of how language is structured and how it functions. And then language areas in the brain. As you can see in the picture, the purple area is called broadcast area that are responsible for language production, and it was possible to localize psychological function to brain convolution. Linguistic systems were caused by lesion in the left hemisphere, and that language those were lateralized, which was totally unexpected. And also broadcast area is said to have a motor representation of speech. And then the blue area is called Wernicke's area, that the area that responsible for language processing. And then the red area, it's called motor cortex, is an area that generally controls movement of the muscle. And the green area is called arcuate fasciculus. It allows for coordinate and comprehensible speech. And then the localization field is having identified these four components. It is tempting to conclude that specific aspect of language ability can be accorded specific location in the brain, and it has been used to suggest that the brain activity involved in hearing a word, understanding, then saying it will follow a defined pattern. And next is tongue, tip, and slips. So the tip of the tongue phenomenon it is when which we feel that some word is just eluding us, that we know the word. And then slips of the tongue. Slips of the tongues are sometimes called spoonerisms, after William Spooner, who was renowned for his tongue slips. And then slips of the ear. It provides some clues to how the brain tries to make sense of the auditory signal it receives. And then is aphasia. Aphasia is one kind of language disorder that results from damage to the parts of the brain that contains language. Aphasia causes problem is the ability to perceive, process, or produce language, and aphasia causes in various forms and degrees depending upon the situation, extent, and severity of the cerebral lesion which is responsible. So what causes of aphasia? Aphasia is caused by damage to one or more of the language areas of the brain, or it can be the cause of the brain injuries is a stroke, and other cause of brain injury are several blows to the head, brain tumors, brain infection, and other conditions that affect the brain. And then there are classification of aphasia. It's modified from Gaswitch in 1970. The principal forms of aphasia and related disorders can be classified as: first, Broca's aphasia. It's characterized by a substantially reduced amount of speech, disordered articulation, and slow. For example, eliminates inflections such as eating. And then Wernicke's aphasia. It's the type of language disorder that results in auditory comprehension. For example, when asked to repeat the word glass, they might say window or something contiguous with glass. And then the last is condiction aphasia. It's the match to the arcuate fasciculus that cause mispronounced words but typically do not have articulation problem. For example, repetition of the words bathe and wash. What the speaker hears and understands can be transferred very successfully. And then, what is diplomatic listening? So, diplomatic listening is an experimental technique that has demonstrated a left hemisphere dominance for syllable and word processing. This technique uses the general established fact that anything experienced on the right hand side of the body is processed in the left hemisphere, and anything on the left side is processed in the right hemisphere. For example, through one earphones comes the syllable g or the word dog, and through the other earphone that exactly the same time comes the or cat. When asked to say what was heard, the subject more often correctly identifies the sound that came via the right ear. This is known as the right ear advantage for linguistic sounds. And the last slide is the critical period. The critical period hypothesis assumes that language are biologically based and states that the ability to learn a native language develops within a fixed period from birth to middle childhood. For example, children learn language most rapidly when young, and that is more difficult when they become adult. So I think that's all about language and the brain. And the next material will be explained by Irzal Ariansyah.
Thank you, Nabila. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Irzal Ariansyah, and I will continue the material. The next material is first language acquisition. The process of language acquisition has some basic requirements. During the first 2 or 3 years of development, a child requires interaction with other language user in order to bring the general language capacity into contact with a particular language such as English. And then we have input. The characteristically simplified speech style adopted by someone who spent a lot of time interacting with a young child incorporates a lot of forms associated with baby talk. Input is where human, infants, or certainly help in their language acquisition by the adults in the home environment. Examples for simplified words are tummy, mama, pupu, pipi, and others. And then we have caregiver speech. Built into a lot of caregiver speech is a type of conversational structure that seems to assign an interactive role to the young child even before he or she becomes a speaking participant. Also described as moderate or child direct speech. And then we have the acquisition schedule. Number 1 is cooing. Between 2 until 4 months, the child gradually becomes capable of producing vowel-like sounds such as I and U. Number 2 is babbling. Between 6 until 8 months, the child produces a number of different vowel and consonants, such as ba 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 and ba ba da da, which at times can almost sound like a real speech. Number three, we have the one word stage. Between 12 until 18 months, the child recognizes at least one or two words. For example, word that utter everyday object such as milk, cat, spoon, and others. Number four, we have the two word stage. Begin around 18 until 20 months. The child already know at least 50 different words and variety combination words appear. For example, baby chair, daddy car, more milk, cat bed. And then number five, we have telegraphic speech. Between 2 until 3 years old, the child begins producing a large number that could be classified as multiple word speech. Next material is the acquisition process. First, learning through imitation. Basic of child speech production by young children. They may repeat single words or process, but not the sentences structure. For example, mom is hungry. To mom hungry, and then another example, the cat is sleeping. Become cat sleep. Now, the second, we have learning through correction. It is unlikely that adult correction are very effective determiner of how the child speaks. The child will continue to use a personally constructed form, despite the adult's repetition of what the correct form should be. And then the acquisition process. First, developing morphology. By the time as a child is 2.5 years old, he or she is going beyond telegraphic speech, and the child indicates the grammatical function of the nouns and verbs is said. And then the second is developing semantics. During the two-word stage, children use their limited vocabulary to refer to a large number of unrelated objects. And then the third, we have developing syntax. In the information question and the use of negative, the child goes through with three stage. Maybe that's all that we can share. If any mistake, we apologize. Thank you very much.